Hello and welcome to day 3 of the Puro Joshi Advent Calendar here on this channel. I'm Pep, and today we are opening another door into the world of Japanese pro wrestling as we are closing our New Japan Pro Wrestling coverage with a top 5 favorite matches from 2025. Important to mention here, and that is always going to be the case for every single top 5 video we are doing in this series, the matches are not ranked via quality or via how amazing the match was itself, but they are ordered chronologically and just based on how much I like the matches to rewatch and everything like that. So the list may not contain some of the best matches New Japan had objectively, more or less, in 2025, but just the matches I personally enjoyed the most to rewatch and whatever. I would just say we jump straight into match number 1 and don't waste any time because I still need to record like half of the videos for this event calendar and it's going to be a rough time in the next couple of days. So, match number 1, we are going at January 5th in the Tokyo Dome. AWX Similar X New Japan Wrestle Dynasty. And in the semi main event, and it's no shock that this match is on the list, we had the return to in-ring competition of none other than Kenny by God Omega. And he, in this match, faced Gabe Kidd, a match that was seen with a lot of anticipation coming into match, of course, because it was Kenny Omega's first match after his diverticulitis that he suffered before, sadly. And the build-up to the match started at around, I believe it was October, if not November, I'm unsure really. And the match was started to get built up with a backstage brawl after Kenny Omega announced that he is going to wrestle and make his return at Wrestle Dynasty. And from that on, everyone's like, okay, that is an interesting choice because nobody really knew what really to expect. Because Gabe Kidd at that point was a good mid to upper mid carder and hasn't really touched the main event scene yet. He was clearly positioned as a number 2 in the stable and had no real instant move up the card moment. So they put him in this match, in this big match against Kenny Omega, and the build up to it was like fantastic, especially the Wrestle Dynasty promo that went like 10 minutes or so that was obviously posted everywhere, where they just went each other with words, and you felt like, okay, something is developing here. And what developed was Gabe Kidd stepping into this Shinihon Ichiban and kind of a persona that we saw really fully shaped throughout 2025. And the match that Kenny and Gabe then work was seen with high anticipation, even though it's Kenny Omega coming back from like 12-month injury time, like illness time at that point. Everything around it just felt big. And that was seen instantly with the entrances. Gabe Kidd, of course, had his very cool entrance where he just came out, revealed that on his trunks, or like on his tights, he had the New Japan logo, the Shinihon logo, and everyone went like crazy in the crowd. And then it was followed by Kenny Omega, who had just this godly theme, his godly presentation, and just the godly gear as well. Just looked like a superstar coming out of this event. Or like in this event, he just looked like a legit star. And the match itself was very interesting from the beginning because a lot would expect that the crowd is going to be behind Kenny Omega because it's, of course, his in-ring return and he's such a big star. But the crowd was more behind Gabe Kidd. It seemed like that Gabe lit a fire in them with the whole Shinihon Ichiban thing and started to connect with the crowd on a different level throughout this match. And Kenny instantly saw that, and I think that shows his wrestling IQ as well, because they instantly laid out their match completely differently than you would expect it. And instead of Kenny Omega being on the bottom on his return match, he started to be on top and just dominated Gabe Kidd, and sometimes even drew some boosts from the crowd. And as I said, this was supposedly the big return match of Kenny Omega. So him getting booed and him realizing that and just fully playing into that just shows how good he is as a wrestler. The move sets itself, aside from the very basic storytelling, were also great. They really implemented the slow start, turning into the typical Kenny Omega main event matches, kind of as we know, where they think went outside in New Japan for a bit, and then they did this brutal table spot and everything, and Gabe Kidd and Kenny both kind of were bleeding, which looked really cool, was a cool visual. And I feel like they just laid this out match perfectly to be this huge thing for Gabe Kidd, and it worked out perfectly. Like, Gabe Kidd looked like a superstar in this match from that on. His comebacks were placed perfectly. His return spots in general were placed perfectly. He got the right amount of offense to not look bad, but also be clearly the underdog itself in the match. And the longer the match went, the more Gabe Kidd got into the match, the more brutal it got as well, with Kenny needing to fight back and needing to step up his game even more in his comeback match, going all out for Gabe Kidd. While Gabe Kidd wins over the crowd more and more and more with every moment. In the end, Kenny Omega then won the match in around 35 minutes or so in a tremendous match. I think it was likely in-ring wise still the best straight-up performance Kenny Omega has had ever since his return. He looked out of this world. He just looked fantastic. I would argue, and people can definitely maybe argue against it, but I don't know who they would pick. This is going to be maybe the best return performance I've ever seen in pro wrestling, if not the best return performance or the best return match of any wrestler. He looked insane. Gabe Kidd, like I said, with his performance, won over the crowd more and more. Gabe Kidd also did the Inoki tribute spots, which also came really cool across, with the crowd going crazy for him. And from that on, even though he lost, it felt like the Gabe Kidd gained a lot of momentum heading out of this match. And we saw what the momentum can do for him in his next match. In the next match we were talking about, because that is match number 2. And we are going to a show in February. It's New Beginning in Osaka 2025, February 11th, and we are talking about the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship match from that show. Yota Tsuji against Gabe Kidd. Like I said, Gabe Kidd, of course, had this hype coming into this match as kind of, I wouldn't call him the savior of New Japan, but the crowd favorite that felt like, in my opinion at least, was super hot at this moment, just felt like the biggest star in the world. On the other side, of course, Yota Tsuji felt kind of the exact same, in my opinion, with him coming off this big win over David Finlay, and now coming into this match as the IWGP Global Champion. And I was interested to see how they're going to work this match, and I think this is one of the smartest ways the match was, a New Japan match was laid out in a long time from 2 young guys. It started off with the first 10 minutes, and I love this part. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire year in any kind of match. They were working the young line openers and opening stretches. It's a callback to the young line times where they had the first match ever in New Japan. The first match after the COVID break was Yota Tsuji vs. Gabe Kidd, and they did a callback to that, with the first 10 minutes really building around just 4 to 5 moves and a slow grappling, and then escalating into the Boston Crab, which is the young lion move, which was a fantastic way to pay to show where they were 5 years ago, and then they slowly but surely got on the next level and showed them, okay, this is where we were 5 years ago, and this is where we are now. And the crowd ate it completely up. With every escalation, with every big spot, the crowd went more and more behind them and just wanted to see this match be as fantastic as it should have been, or like it was in the end. It was just incredible to watch. I think this is outstanding. And you can just feel the history between them. You can just feel the escalation. You can just feel it, especially mixed with the crowd that was started to chant Shin Nihon, as they felt like a magical moment happened right in front of their eyes that they want to see back. They want to see new stars stepping up, and it felt like at that very moment they had this. We can talk about whatever happened after with both, but that's another topic. They tried to make it here very clear, hey, look, these two are the future, and the crowd really want them to be the future. Chanting for them. A Shin Nihon chant is not like an AEW chant or WWE chant or like TNA chant. That doesn't happen often. They need to be really earned. And Gabe Kidd and Yota earned it here. The match then in the end ended in a 20-minute double KO. I'm unsure if that was the right finish looking back. But I think it just put them on a map, on a high, in the crowd that you just really can't say this was the wrong choice. Especially considering it was building up to a bigger rematch, even though that kind of undelivered. The third match, and it's a match we talked about more in detail yesterday. So if you want to check out my full thoughts on the match we'll be talking about next, check out the video from day 2. It's the match that followed right after this event, right after this global title match. It's the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match between Hiroki Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. And what is there to say what we haven't said about this match? It was just magical. The entire storyline around Hiroki Goto getting his, maybe in many people, one last shot at the IWGP World title, to him then winning the title here in this tremendous match, with the story potential being with the story being off the chart, with the emotions being insane. Everything around this match was just out of this world. I thought this was incredible. There's nothing you can find as a flaw in this match. The performance of Hiroki Goto as this underdog babyface was incredible. The performance of Zack Sabre Jr. in this match was insane. Maybe one of his best performances ever, in my opinion, at least. And that mix with the crowd being so behind Goto, with the crowd following this high of Yota Tsuji and Gabe Kidd, and just wanting to see this big moment to have their ending on the show, was just great. This show, and especially this match, we can combine both matches and just say incredible 2-match stretch, maybe the best we've seen in New Japan in a long time, and it reminded me of the old prime New Japan days. And that is the biggest compliment you can just give these 2 matches. I would just say, people have seen this match. You should definitely seek the both of if you haven't, because they are both. Yota Tsuji with Gabe Kidd and a follow-up with Hiroki Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. on the show were just incredible. On maybe the best New Japan show we have in years. The last 2 matches we'll be talking about here are both from G1 Climax, and if you want to check out my in-detail thoughts about the G1 Climax matches in general, I reviewed every single G1 Climax match on the channel. Yes, I'm insane. That is why I'm exactly doing this content here right now as well. And match number 4 is from August 7th, and it was in the Currican Hall. It was a G1 Climax A-block match. It was Yoya Uemura facing off against Rohei Oiwa. And I would say, in terms of pure in-ring work, this might have been the most cleanest match we've seen in this year's G1 Climax. Yuya and Oiwa just went out there and sent a message to everyone. They wanted to show, hey, look, I know the focus has been a lot about Shota Umino in last year. The focus in this year has been a lot about Gabe Kidd, and the focus has been about Yoratsuji. But they wanted to show we are here also here, and that is exactly how they wrestled. 18 minutes of just straight up incredible wrestling. The first few minutes with the grappling just looked beautiful, leading into the bigger spots. And once we got into the counter sequences, it got out of this world. And it was just insane, in my opinion. There were especially one counter that was stuck in my mind ever since. And that was the one where Uemura countered the grip attempt from Oiwa into an arm drag and then right into an armbar. It looked just beautiful how the arm drag was executed, and it looked like it was filmed in a movie some way. It just looked, but it still looked real, and that was so good. And I felt like that this was the performance that especially Oiwa needed. He looked good for the majority of his comeback run, before the G1 Climax and after the G1 Climax. In the G1 Climax, you saw him struggling, I think, a little bit in the first couple of matches to step out of the shadow of some couple of other names. But this was the match where he put all the effort in, really, and jumped the line of being a good wrestler to show, okay, he can be fantastic. And his performance in this match was great. And you saw that with Zach on the balcony. He was like supporting his boy on the balcony. He was like kind of going crazy. He looked at least really proud from images we're able to see on social media of him. And there's something cool always about him. Like, he always supports his boys. Doesn't matter if it's like Kosei or if it's Oiwa. Still, Oiwa, in my opinion, gained a lot here and showed to the world what he really can do. Uemura just continues to have great matches against everyone. His G1 run last year was fantastic before the injury. His G1 run this year was really good, with this obviously being the peak. But also his matches against Yoratsuji, against Taichi. I love the match against Bolton, the match against David Finlay, and the match against Tanahashi. All were really good, but this was clearly the peak for him. Just 18 minutes of straight up beautiful and fantastically done wrestling, with in the end Uemura winning this match and gaining 2 important points, as both were at 8 points at this point. Then we go to the final match we'll be talking about here, match number 5. We are heading once again into the Karakin Hall on August 18, 2025, day 17 of the G1 Climax 35. We are talking about Konosuke Takeshita defeating David Finlay in 17 minutes and 12 seconds in a G1 Climax quarter-final match. And what do you need to say about this match? Everyone who follows me knows how much I love David Finlay. I think he's tremendous. I still think he gets not enough credit compared to how fantastic he is. And he, regardless of the spot, regardless who he faces, just goes out there and have always one of the best outings you can imagine, or like one of the best outings on the entire show. And that was the case here as well. He just walked out there with a confidence that was just insane. And then mixed with Takeshita being just Konosuke Takeshita and stepping up in the last couple of matches of G1 Climax and being just an incredible wrestler. This atmosphere of this match was great. Loud 50-50 chance for both wrestlers as they were slowly touching each other. And it started off with a really dominant phase of Finlay, and it was just magical to watch as he just manhandled Takeshita like no other. And it was unbelievable to watch, because Takeshita hasn't been really manhandled like this, dominant like this the entire G1 Climax. So seeing someone like Gabe seeing someone like Finlay throwing him around at points and just dominating him was a cool sight to see, and something we haven't seen from Takeshi all match, all tournament. He needed to adjust to that, and he did, and it just ended up being a bomb throwing contest with whoever's the strongest wins. In the end, it was Takeshi, and I just loved it. In general, I need to really praise both wrestlers here. For Takeshi, this was exactly the match that he needed at that point, especially after the, in my opinion, middling block stage, where he obviously held back for these kind of top matches where it was clear, okay, he's going to have a long run. And he showed here everyone, hey, look, you may doubt me, but I'm one of a kind. I'm just out of this world. And he just showed it in this match. While I personally rooted for Finlay because I wanted to see him win, because I just want to see him getting the push that he deserves, I can't even blame New Japan for going with Takeshi, because he's just incredible. He's just so outstanding that you kind of need to go all in with that kind of talent. For Finlay, I need to say, this dude just loves the business and he loves New Japan. Like, he is so giving in every match, and he doesn't mind looking weak. Like, he just went out there, did his job to his best, and just say, hey, look, I'm going to dominate me, and then I'm going to bump the living hell out of you, making you look like a superstar. That was his entire role, really, in this tournament. Not only in this match, but if you look at the match against Callum Newman, if we look at the match against Bolton Oleg, if we look at the match against if we look at the match against Yohei Oiwa, or even against Taichi, in every match, he kind of made it very clear, hey, look, I'm getting my dominant face in, and then I'm going to make your comebacks look like the biggest thing ever. And it is so admirable for him, because it doesn't feel like he has any kind of ego. Like, even in these preview matches, I don't know if people have seen the preview matches in the G1 show. There was some preview match where he just bumped for young lions. Especially the one that I have in my mind. I don't know when it exactly was, but it was him bumping for Murashima, I believe it was. And he just bumped over and over again for him, making it look good. And he doesn't need to do that. But he still did, because he loves this company. That's something you just need to admire. The match just, sums that up perfectly, how well he bumped and how well he still looked. It was incredible. I loved this one. You guys need to check it out if you haven't, but I'm sure all of you have. And with that, we are finishing up our New Japan coverage. Tomorrow, we are continuing with Marigold, with 3 matches about Marigold. And then on the 7th, we have a match. We are going to talk about a match from the 80s. So look forward to that as well. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and comment down below. Watch the other videos on this channel. With that, bye-bye.